Alright, hey guys. So this is my first video on YouTube here. Basically, I wanted to start this off just explaining about some care ideas for records. I obviously need to learn a little bit more about editing before I do some more videos, but I thought this would just be a nice quick little tutorial, at least of how I take care of my records. There's probably a lot of better ways to take care of them, and a lot of other ways that you could do better or worse. So let's just get started. So I have my example record here. This is just Mr. Mister, Welcome to the Real World. I really like this album because it has Is It Love, Curie, and Broken Wings. And I also like Black White on here. That's a really good song. So I'm going to start off with the record itself. So when you first get these albums, what I try to do is, obviously it comes with the original record holder, the record sleeve, and so obviously it looks pretty nice. You know, usually it's kept in really good condition, but there's a lot better ways to store your records than in the original paper sleeve. From what I know, or from what I learned, the paper on the record sleeve actually attracts static, or causes static, which attracts a lot of dust. And if you ever have your own record, you'll notice that a lot of that dust gets right on the record. It just clings to it like nothing, and it's just a pain in the butt. So what I do to mitigate that is I try to go ahead and put them in anti-static record sleeves. Now obviously you don't want to throw away your original ones, especially if you kind of like to preserve them. You know, you want to have that original record sleeve. So what I do is I usually just keep this in the back, and then I'll put this over it. So anytime I pull it out, I'll just pull this out and I'll just leave this in the back. Another thing too with that is sometimes if you go, like I go to a place called Bananas Records. I love their store. They're amazing. Their quality control is perfect. And so a lot of times with their records, these inner sleeves have no holes or anything. So it's really nice because with these other sleeves, you know, you don't have to worry about any kind of wear on these. So as I said, what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and put this one right back inside, and I always try to be gentle so I don't accidentally bend them or anything, because it's really easy, especially on, I'll see if I can take a look on the camera here, but on the grooves, you'll see there's like this little right there. You always want to be careful that you're not going to hit on that, because that, I have learned the hard way, is one of the easiest ways to bend or hurt your inner sleeves, especially if it's caught on there, because it could peel it back. It could peel the actual record outer shell back, and it could also damage the inner sleeve. So I put that right here. Now onto taking out the record and everything. When you're taking out the record, what I try to do is I always try to grab it right by the edge right here, right by that first groove where where it just loads onto the record before actually playing. I'm not sure. I believe the dead wax is in the middle, closer to the title area. So I don't think that top part is called the dead wax, but that section where there's no audio, you can grab right by there. I try and grab it like that. Put that down. And then I always grab by the edges. You don't want to put your fingers on the grooves, because from what I hear, you can get the oils on the grooves, which then adds more dust and can add things that compound into the grooves. So what I'll gently do is I'll take this, I'm going to play side one. I'm going to gently put it on the record player. Then every time before I do it, it's just a nervous habit. You don't have to do this, but this is just something I do. I always make sure feel the correct edge, because all the bristles are going this way. But I'll take my little record brush, turn on my record player, and I'll press start. And what I'll do is I'll just go through a quick one pass, a full rotation, gently take it off, and there's just a little bit of dust on there. And though it's not much, I always feel there's a certain kind of just quality control for me, that it feels like all of that dust is not going in the grooves. You don't have to do that, but I feel like personally it just helps the longevity of the record. So put that down. I already have the stereo going, so it'll automatically play on the speakers here. Something with my needle might be a little bit larger, so it sometimes skips to the first groove, so you'll hear like a little bit of a skip. So what I always do is I always just stop the record, gently place it down. On my record player, luckily I do have a direct drive. It's just a Gemini XL 502. And so I can stop the record when I put it on. Modern record players, you're not going to have that same kind of ability to stop them. Usually they're just automatic play, so the moment you move the stylus over, it'll start the record immediately, whether you have dropped the needle or not. You don't really have much control over there. So I'm going to gently, now that I've dropped it, gently just move it, and you'll hear that snap. That's it loading right into the groove. So now it's in the groove. We don't have to worry about it jumping or anything. So then now that we've dusted, we've gotten the groove ready, we can press play. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about how we put the record away. Basic steps, same kind of thing. I don't really worry about the dusting too much when I'm done. I always just give it a quick look through. So what I'll do is I'll usually just raise the tone arm, and then I'll gently move it back to the armrest, drop the arm. And what I'll do is I'll just take a look, pull it off by the sides again, and I'll just give it a quick inspection, make sure there's not too much dust. Looks pretty good. So what I'll do is I'll check the back side as well. If there's a lot of dust, because sometimes I have a felt mat, so sometimes dust can collect on there too. I'll just give it a once over, make sure it looks okay. This one looks pretty good. There's a little bit there, but it's all surface, and we don't have to worry about it too much since we're not going to be going crazy with it, you know, pushing against it or anything, having anything push against it. So what we'll do, again, that'll all be fixed when we play side 2, and we just give it a quick little brush. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put it back in its sleeve, very gently. And we'll go ahead and gently put that in here, minding that little gap at the top, the where the sleeve meets, or whatever you would call it. Gently put that down. And then this one has a little bit of air, so what I'll do is I'll gently just do a little pat across and make sure all that air gets out, because you don't want it, you know, expanded, or else it could kind of just, I feel like it'll just warp the shell. I might be wrong, but it's always just a good thing just to check. So next what I'll do is I'll turn off my record player, and we're going to go over to record storage over here. So I'm going to move the camera. Now over here is our record storage. So I have 2 little sections for records. Also, if you like this cabinet or other wood products, shout out to Gannon Wood Works, GannonWoodWorks.com. They're located in Brandon, Florida, and they're an amazing woodworking company. I had this built. I don't think they make these anymore, but I know the owner is really great. He makes a lot of pens, cutting boards, things like that. Great guy. I'd recommend him for any woodworking stuff. So, with these, what I'd say is you want to make sure that when you put your record back, you want to be careful. You don't want it to be bent too much. You don't want everything on top of each other. If it's on top of each other, the records can warp and they can have issues. So what I do is I always keep them straight up and down, diagonally. And then I try to give them a little bit of breathing room too. So as you'll see, there's just enough where I can still move through. The records have room to breathe, so they're not being pressed up against each other real tight. So that way there's no wear on the record. And I have a good example of that right here. When a record is pushed up against each other, it usually turns out something like this. So you'll see these white marks that if you were to gently move, you'll feel that's right about where the record is. So right there, this is probably something, I bought this one at a thrift store. So basically what that means is this probably sat in someone's collection, didn't have much room to breathe, and so then after multiple uses, that wear kind of finally showed where the record was. So pretty much that's the biggest thing about these, is just making sure that you keep them give them a little bit of room to breathe. You know, you don't want them too many in one section, or else it could get that wear. Other than that, I think that's about it. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed.